talking about the Innkeeper's dilemma. And we're just doing one verse today, Luke 2:7. It was a part of what was put on your screen there. Let me read it again. It says, "And she," meaning Mary, "gave birth to her firstborn son, Jesus," right? "And she wrapped him in cloths and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn." Look at this point number one that we talked here about baby Jesus. Boy, when you just put those two words together, baby Jesus. I know recently here in the church with the preparation for the Christmas play and all, I came out, they would have been rehearsing and back and forth with props and all of that, and they came out and baby Jesus was laying on the communion table. Only because it was where you could set something during school while they were rehearsing. And here's the Advent candles, and you do this in remembrance of me. And there's, a plastic baby that's going to be Jesus that is laying there on the communion table. It was a moment for me. I think for all of us, if today I can somehow do something for you, and that is to show you baby Jesus in such a way that you could actually hold him in your arms. Boy, would that make a difference for you? Would that get you past all of the falderall? Would that get you past all of your issues of this season? Would that get you past the person that's driving you nuts between now and Christmas? If you could actually hold baby Jesus? What if that baby had your undivided attention? I don't know emotionally if I could hold that baby without tears. And a joy that I wouldn't even know how to express. I'm touched by the fact that this year Jeremiah is going to be baby Jesus. So when I see him, and sometimes when he speaks out there in the service, I just think he's rehearsing, And we never know what baby Jesus is going to do, whether he be plastic or one of our own. But we do know this, that the imagery and the picture of who baby Jesus is, that cannot be denied. Baby Jesus was born near the same place that other Passover lambs were born. Did you realize that? When the shepherds, they would go into these clefts of these rocks, and there would be places where the sheep would give birth to the baby sheep, the lambs, and the lambs would be inspected, and the ones that were without blemish or spot would be swaddled, just like baby Jesus. They would wrap them up, cleaning them off to make sure that there was no spot or blemish, and that it was going to be a presentable lamb for sacrifice, potentially. Gives a little deeper meaning to what the shepherds were going through. But it's not far from the same place. And so the shepherds knew, and wrapped in swaddling clothes, just like they did with those baby lambs, he was the perfect little Lamb of God. I mean, babies are perfect anyway, right? Well, at least other people's babies are perfect. Not the babies you have to live with through the night. Those are different babies, right? But the ones we pass around during the service, and the ones that we get to hold and that we coo with, and all of the special moments that we share. But Jesus was without spot or blemish too. And he remained that way to become the perfect Passover lamb. The lamb that would be slain and sacrificed for the sins of the whole world. It's hard to do, but we need to continually be reminded of the association between the baby Jesus and the crucified Lord for our sins. That's a hard thing to do, especially if we're going to make you hold the baby today. I even considered getting plastic Jesus and just passing him around. Or maybe we could pass Jeremiah around this morning. I don't know if Jeremiah would enjoy that much, but I'm just telling you that you have to make the association between baby Jesus and your Lord and Savior. And I think it's a perfect time to do it. Because that baby doesn't mean you any harm. That baby is just coming into the world. God made himself flesh, incarnated, and came for the sins of the world. Baby Jesus wants into your heart. That's what baby Jesus wants. If you were to hold baby Jesus, he'd be real close to your heart, wouldn't he? We would all hold him, so it'd be right here. Point number 2 says this. It says, you are the innkeepers of your hearts. Every one of you. You're the innkeeper of your heart. You get to say what comes in, what goes out. It's your heart. And he is the innkeeper. You are the innkeeper of your heart, and he wants to be in your heart. And the question is, do you have room for him today in your heart? Is there room in your heart today for Jesus? Well, we give you a few choices here. If you say always, maybe that's an every moment thing for you. I mean, there was room in my heart when I spotted Jesus on the communion table. There was room in my heart when I knew we were going to have little Jeremiah be baby Jesus. There was room in my heart that day way back during Tustin Tiller days, and I got to hold Jeremiah for a while during Tustin Tiller days. And it just spoke so much to me, volumes to me. Just holding a real baby. Is it always? For you, every moment that you're aware that there's room for Jesus in your heart? Or would you say today that your heart is very crowded? That your heart is crowded. And when your heart gets crowded, it crowds out Jesus sometimes. Our heart gets crowded with what? Oh, the things of this world. That's what crowds our heart. Our heart gets cluttered and there's all kinds of junk that comes into our heart, our thoughts, our minds. You know, what is it that is crowded into our hearts? It's what comes in from the outside. Right? That's what crowds me. It's what through the eyes and the ears and, you know, and stuff comes in. And then there's also stuff that comes out. And that crowds my heart too. Comes out of me, comes out of other people. And then there's what comes up. The tyranny of the urgent. And there's stuff that comes up. And that stuff that comes up, it definitely crowds. And then there's the stuff that comes down. And there's two good things, right? One good thing and one hard thing. Sometimes when things come down, it's not easy, right? Stuff comes down. And you got to deal with it. You got to face with it. And other times, stuff comes from, like gifts from heaven and it comes down. So I don't know if what comes in or what comes out, what comes up or what comes down is what crowds your heart. But at every moment, if something is crowding your heart to the degree that there's no room for Jesus, it's too crowded in your heart. And you need to always have room for him in your heart. And you know, once we let him into our hearts, and we do initially about salvation and all that, and I'm not going to get into a theological discussion about salvation and asking Jesus into your heart and all that kind of stuff. What I want you to consider is do you have room to consider Jesus at all times? Or would you say, I need to make more room? Do you need to make more room? Well, that probably means that something else has to go. But that's a hard thing in our lives, isn't it? We have stuff. We have things, whether they're emotions or physical things. And the things are crowding our space. They're crowding his space. And we probably need to do some junk removal in our lives. Some of us need to do some junk removal in our cars. Others of us need to do some junk removal in our closets, or in our garages, or our houses look like garages or closets. Or would you be one who would say, I'm sorry, there's no room. I don't know how to measure that sorrow. The sorrow would say that there is no room for Jesus. If you're in that position today and you say, there is so much going on in my life that there's just no room for Jesus, I would say to you, please don't say that. And please don't say that in an eternal sense. There is room for Jesus. Always room. Make room for Jesus. The character in the vignette, at one point he said about his disbelief. And I don't think his disbelief was constant. I think his disbelief came to where he doubted from time to time. I think that's a kind of disbelief. When I say disbelief, it's not that I don't believe. I think disbelief to me means that in the moment or in the situation that I'm finding it hard to believe. That's what my disbelief is like, is when it's hard to believe. And it being hard to believe, that is a tough situation to be in. Does disbelief paralyze you? That's what he said that it did to him. That it paralyzed him, made him indecisive, or made it difficult for him to act, or difficult for him to put Jesus first, or his faith first. Does your disbelief, or your doubting, or your worries, or your anxieties, or your concerns, does it paralyze you? And you may not be one that is emotionally or physically paralyzed, but you may have what I suffer from time to time, and that's the paralysis of analysis. And that is that between my ears, I can just absolutely get paralyzed, and I can work myself up into a dither and a corner, and I can be all overwhelmed about whatever it is, as if I didn't know who God was. I'm not proud to tell you that, but I've got to stop myself early in that process. And as soon as I discover that I'm analyzing, I need to stop analyzing and start believing. So does disbelief paralyze you? You may be saying, oh, it does just a little. I think that's what it is for me. From time to time, it is a little. For some of us here today, it's a lot. It just shuts us down completely. We can't do a thing. I can't go outside. I can't get out of the room. I can't change my clothes. I can't do the simplest of responsibilities because I am so paralyzed. And you might say it's too much and too often. But what about the disbelief, the doubting, the worry, the anxiety in your life? Is that what keeps you from saying there's no room in the moment for Jesus? Because if Jesus comes in, if you let Jesus into the room, your thinking is going to change. I mean, if you really do it, if you really let Jesus in, it changes everything. Because what would I do if some thought comes into my head and I'm holding a baby? When I say, here, hold the baby, I need to obsess on this. No, I put things in perspective, wouldn't I? I would say, yeah, I've got this thought in my head, but there's this baby. And so therefore the thought doesn't overwhelm me because the baby overwhelms me. And how the baby overwhelms me takes total authority over my worry, over my depression, over my anxiety, over my fear, over my control issues. Point number 4 says this. Another thing that he said in the play, and I think here Jesus comes into the world, and there's no room for him in the end. And he made the comment that everyone is in their own little world. Are you aware that everyone is in their own little world? For some of us, when we discover that everyone is in their own little world, immediately it means that worlds are going to collide. Because in my world, it is my way, on my time, and by my rules. In my space, my opinion, and my everything. Because that's how I am. If you don't like it, you're normal. But I think everyone's in their own little world to a degree, don't you? How often does that happen to you, that you're in your own little world? And if you're in your own little world where you can't have any empathy or feeling about what everybody else is going through, your world is really crowded. And your world is really crowded with you. Sometimes that crowd that's inside your mind is not the things of the world. It's not the responsibilities or the junk, or it's not the stuff, or it's not people or anything. That the biggest crowd in my room is me. I'm in the way of there not being room for Jesus. Because I've got to have it a certain way. It's a hard place to be. But everyone's in their own little world. Every individual that showed up at the manger scene, every individual in Bethlehem, every individual in Tustin or wherever you live, in Orange, where I live, that everybody's in their own little world. You want to prove this to yourself sometime when you're out and about, just go ahead and step back out of your own bad self, okay? And just kind of take a look around you and try to ask yourself on the freeway, where is everybody going? And why do they have to be on the freeway at the same time as me? Can you feel other people's feelings? Have you ever seen loneliness? Have you ever seen addiction? Have you ever seen depression? Have you ever seen conflict? We had conflict at Walmart the other day. I am confident that there's a lot of conflict this time of year at Walmart. Yeah. Because you got a lot of human beings on a mission at the same time, and it's crowded. So we're in line, and it's crowded, and we're all waiting a long time, and a man has a coupon, and he has an issue, and he gets into it somehow, but the guy behind him has an issue about how long it's taking, and they basically started to square off in line. And then the invitation was that this shouldn't happen in line, it should probably happen where? Outside. So I know everybody's watching to see if the guy really was waiting for him outside. But it caught me. It caught me where I was kind of saying, man, this is finally going to be my opportunity to act out aggressively like I so often want to. Everyone in their own little world. This guy's in his world. The poor cashier, she's in her world. Right? Everybody in line, we're in our worlds. Everybody's seeing all this happen, right? And the worlds are colliding, and we're wondering what's going to happen from that. Sometimes our kitchen can be like Walmart. Sometimes the worship center is like Walmart. Just a little too crowded. Have you ever noticed that when somebody you don't like, or somebody that's hard for you or whatever, when they show up, it just starts to get crowded? But everyone has their own stuff. And baby Jesus, he came to be in the arms of everybody. So when you've got baby Jesus in your arms, is baby Jesus big enough that he can be in somebody else's arms too? At the same time, of course he is. I think if we all walked around like we were holding babies, it might be a better world. Don't you? I think we might all be a little bit more careful about what we say and what we do, how we act. We certainly wouldn't be as violent. Are you in your own little world all the time, and you find it hard to get out? Or do you really just don't even notice that everybody is in their own little world? If you don't notice that everybody's in their own little world, man, are you in your own little world. That should be the biggest indicator of all, that you can't experience any empathy when you're not aware that everybody else has problems and issues. Do you notice? Or would you say, really? Really, Pastor Ben, is everybody in their own little world? Is that what's really going on? And I would ask you, please don't be oblivious to what's going on out there. You know, in the church, the body of Christ, it's an opportunity for us to bounce off of each other. It's an opportunity for us to have conversation. It's a microcosm of what you have to face out there in the world, and we can learn how to talk to one another, how to listen to one another, and how to relate to one another. Don't be oblivious to the fact that everybody's in their own world. And everybody may be stuck as much as you are. Well, down here at the bottom, I put my answer, and that is that I know I am. I am. I can be in my own little world. And it's all about how it's affecting me. We get Christmas cards, and people write notes in Christmas cards and that kind of thing. And Kim Ann Shane sent me a Christmas card, and inside the Christmas card, right, was a note. And it was actually just lyrics from a song that Amy Grant wrote. And these words have been literally haunting me, and I'm like obsessing on these words in recent days. As I think about holding that baby, Amy Grant's words, it's point number 5 here, I've written them out for you. They're probably on the screen here by now. Fragile fingers sent to heal us. Have you ever taken your finger and let a baby hold your finger? Can you imagine holding the Christ child and have him wrap his hand around your finger? Would that heal your emotions today? Would that heal your attitude today? Tender brow prepared for thorn. I used to have the responsibility for putting the grandchildren to sleep. And one of the things when they were littler and babies that I would do, and it just worked so well, is I would stroke their eyebrow. Anybody else do this with babies besides me? Especially when, you've had enough time with them and you just want to go to sleep. So you just touch the eyebrow of the baby kind of over and over and a little bit pattern. You might think, you know how to do this. If you know how to do this, you know how to do this. What you do is you do it like 4 or 5 times, right? And then you don't do it. And then they notice that you're not doing it, and then you do it again. And you do it again. And a few times into it, many babies, if not most babies, they drift right off. Baby Jesus, tender brow, prepared. And the tiny heart. Have you heard baby's heart on your heart before? What do baby's hearts do? They beat faster than your heart, don't they? Especially newborns. As a matter of fact, if you've ever held a newborn, is it frightening how fast their heart is beating? You wonder if everything is okay? It's like boom, 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 boom. And that's just the way that it is. But a tiny heart whose blood will save us. The tiny heart of Jesus, even baby Jesus. Unto us is born. Unto us a child is given. Welcome to our world. So, innkeepers, I challenge you today to make room for Jesus. Not just in your heart, and in your mind, and in your spirit, your soul, but in your arms too. Make room for the infant Jesus and welcome him into your world. Let's cry.